today with new topics. And yesterday we discussed about what is an LLM, and we have discussed about briefly about what is LLM and what are other components like prompts and how does an LLM function. Now today we will be discussing about two main libraries. Those libraries are very much important, I would say, with regard to LLMs. And let me just write them down. So we will be discussing about Langchain. This is one of the library and it is very important. I will come back to this library and explain why this is needed. The other is Llama Index. So let's see if I am able to finish both the libraries today, or else we will just explain in detail about LangChain. Now, let me put it here and let me explain what LangChain is. See, now by default, when we talk about LLMs, those are complex programs and these LLMs are stateless. When I mention stateless, it actually means that they don't have any kind of memory of their own. And what they actually do is they will uh, accept a question, and then once they have given the answer, they will forget about what was the previous question if you send a new question. So suppose I am sending a question to LLM saying that my name is Zishan, and I get a response back from LLM saying that okay, hi Zishan, how are you? Now if I ask LLM what was my name or what is my name, then LLM will not be able to answer me the question. And because the reason is because LLMs by default are stateless. They are only able to do, see, LLM is not like a silver bullet. It is not something that can do all the things or all the tasks for a developer or for an end user. LLM is something which has a very specific purpose, and in my yesterday's video I have clearly explained what are those features, what is the actual purpose of LLM. These LLMs are briefly, I would explain, these LLMs are mainly designed to be good with regard to generating text, understanding text, looking at a large amount of text and finding the relationship between the words and predicting the next word or next set of words in a sentence. These are some of the like features or core ideas of LLM. Now when we talk about stateless, LLMs are like HTTP or our APIs which we build using Node.js. So when we build an API using Node.js, if I am calling the API with a particular request, the API server, whether it's Node or .NET or PHP, will respond to that request and will forget about the request. Next time I will have to provide some prior information about my previous request, or some ID or some other like identifier to let the server know what was my previous request, and then it will come to know, okay, now I have understood what was your previous request, please let me know what is your next request. So in the same principle, we have the LLMs are basically stateless, and the reason we have to build libraries or frameworks around LLMs are is to basically like fix the issues or like achieve the requirements which we want from LLM. Now let me draw a diagram of an LLM. Let's say, just delete this, I will draw a new diagram. Let's say this is an LLM. Now LLM needs some information. It, when we have a chat agent, we will need to have some like memory which should be there, or some way we can provide a context to an LLM. So that is where LangChain comes into picture. So let me just delete this llama index for now. Let's talk about LangChain. So when we have this LangChain, now one of the core features of LangChain which it provides, it's a basically it's an open source framework, and it is used to build applications around LLM, and it provides lot of components which help you to access data. Suppose you have an SQL database. So you have an SQL database and you have a CSV file. Now you need some way to like fetch the data and pass that data to LLM, and that is where the LangChain library comes into picture. So what does LangChain do? LangChain pulls the data from different sources like CSV or SQL, and then it finally sends the data to LLM. That is what the purpose, one of the purposes of LangChain is. And now, what are the other features which LangChain provides is prompt engineering. So what is a prompt engineering? Like prompt engineering is like, let's say we have an LLM and we want to ask an LLM a question, and I want to ask LLM what is my name, or let's say I will, let's say, let me give an example. Let's say we have the CSV file, and this CSV file contains the data for a classroom with all the marks which the students in a classroom have secured. Now it's a mark sheet. Okay, so this CSV file is nothing but a mark sheet with all the marks for each student. Now, when I am asking a question to an LLM, uh, asking LLM a question saying that who who secured highest marks in maths. Now, when I ask this question to an LLM, now LLM doesn't know anything about maths. It doesn't know anything about marks, which marks I am referring to. Now, what I need to do is I need to pass this as a question, and then I need to also pass a context to the LLM. Now, in this context, I can pass the data set. Now I will come to this data set. So basically this data set is nothing but the data which has been pulled from the CSV file. So that data is pulled through LangChain, and it is then passed as a context to LLM. Now LLM, what it does is it will check the question, it will check the context, and based on the context it will answer the user a question who secured highest marks in maths. Now this data set can be from a CSV file, or it can also be from a PDF file. So I can say I can just have this as a CSV file, or I can have this as a PDF file. Now this is like when we are mentioning a question saying who secured highest marks in maths, that is just a question with text. Now when we are also placing a context, then it becomes a prompt, and this prompt is actually it's a completely new field in terms of like, see, when we are communicating with an LLM, the LLM has only a basic like it has a very narrow space in terms of like it wants you to ask a specific question, and when you are asking a specific question, it expects you to provide a context for that question. It expects you to ask a question in a specific format. For example, I can ask LLM a question: who secured highest, uh, please let me know five students with bullet points who have secured highest marks or top, like five high ranking students in maths. So when you are asking a specific question by providing an example, like in this case, I have asked LLM to answer me in bullet points, and then I am also mentioning a context. So this all becomes a part of a prompt, and we need to design these prompts, because see, we cannot just send lot of text as a question to the LLM, because if we are sending lot of text as a question to the LLM, we will be charged more, because LLMs are charging us based on the tokens. Now, when an LLM receives a question, it will break that question into tokens, and those tokens will be charged, will be chargeable. Like we will be paying for the number of tokens which are there in a question. So we have to be very specific, we have to be very limited in terms of creating those prompts. We cannot just put any text or like 1,000 words, or we have to be very specific, we have to be very limited and creative also when we design these prompts. And that is the reason this is called as a prompt engineering and not just prompts. So this is what is a prompt: with a context within question which is very specific, with more, if you are providing an example, that is better. Otherwise, you can also provide a response format like bullet points or anything else. Okay, so this is one part. Now when I Okay, so let me talk about why do we need to have these data sources send data to LLM, because what is our expectation? We expect LLM to know everything. Then if LLM knows everything, why do we need to send LLMs this data from SQL or CSV or PDF file? See, the reason is LLMs are trained, and these LLMs are trained on a particular data set, and that data set can be from internet, from be they can be from the private data. Now once these LLMs are trained, now they then only can answer questions based on the training data. Now if I have trained a particular LLM, uh, I have last trained an LLM on 1st March 2024, and then I am asking an LLM a question on 25th March 2024 about some event which has occurred after 1st March. Then it will not be able to answer me, because it is not aware of anything before 1st March, sorry, before 24th and after 1st March. So last time we had trained LLM was on 1st March. And that is the reason LLMs have a very limited data. They are trained on a very limited data. Now, the this shortcoming of LLM can be, like, we can fix it by providing data to an LLM through context. Now this context can tell LLM, okay, if you are not aware of what the like marks, or what is the data for marks, you don't have that data, so please check the context and answer this question. Okay, now This is one of the reasons we are using LLM, like Langchain. The Langchain provides a context to the LLM. Now the other reason we are using Langchain is because, see, you might have some private like data. This data, this SQL server or the CSV or PDF file can reside behind a particular firewall in some company, and the company would not prefer to expose this data to the outside world. Now, in that case, the LangChain library can be used to like fetch this data and organize it and send it as a context to LLM, so that LLM can answer the questions based on the data. So let me give you an example. Let's say a we are building a chat application, and in this chat application, like we have an end user who is who wants support. Let me just draw this. Let's say we are building this chat application. Okay, now this chat application, we have an end user. Now this end user doesn't know about LLM, it doesn't know about any other technology. We are just providing a service to this user. Let's say this user is nothing but it's a student. Now this student wants to know like how much he has secured in maths. So what he would do is he would communicate with our chat application. Now he would expect that somebody would respond to him in a proper human like fashion, in terms of proper uh, language, like grammar and everything, and with accurate data. Now behind the behind this facade or behind this firewall, we have this chat application which is communicating with this chat application communicates with our LLM. Now the LLM needs to know what data we need to he wants to, this user wants to know the question, like he has posted a question to our chat application. Now how much have I secured in maths? Okay, how much have I in maths? Okay, so this is the question which this user or student is asking our chat application. Now chat application needs to forward this question to an LLM. Now that is where LangChain comes into picture. Now what does LangChain do? LangChain will take this question, okay, and it will send it to LLM. But first, it will have an CSV file, okay. So it will have a CSV file or an Excel file or a PDF file with all the marks for a particular class. Now it will create this prompt, okay. It will create this prompt. So let's put it here. We will have a question, okay. So we will have this question here. Now this question, along with, we will have a context data set. Now this is specifically send created by the developer or a prompt engineer and then passed to the LLM. Now that is how LLM will respond back with the actual data. Just a second. Just try this. So the LLM will, okay, just let me do it like this. So the LLM will respond back to the Langchain or the chat application, and chat application will respond back to the student with the actual answer. So that is one of the purpose of the Langchain library. It is providing us with the collection of tools where we can like create prompts, and these prompts can be based on some template. Like we can have a template. So template is nothing but like it's if you have like seen in Node.js, we have these EGS files where we can have placeholders, and we can provide some predefined information. So let me give you an example. So we can have a template like this. So we can say, okay, we can say we can create this. So this will be the actual prompt. We'll say, we'll tell the LLM, you are a school teacher and are responding back to the student with question, with following question, and then we can put the question here. Okay, so this is what is kind of a template. So the template is already defined, and we will use that template, and then we will send that template, fill the question inside that template with context, and we will forward it to LLM. So that is one of the features of the Langchain. Now why do we do this? Because LLMs have a they are very limited in terms of their flexibility of for allowing everything what we want, and that is the reason we have to build these tools or libraries which can help us to communicate, like from our application we can communicate with LLMs. Now this is one area. Now let's talk about the other areas. Now the other feature of an LLM, or sorry, the other feature of Langchain, let's come back to here. The other feature of a Langchain is that it will allow you to create chain. Now, when I refer to chain, it actually literally means that you will be able to uh, sequentially organize the actions which you want an LLM to perform. Now, let me give you an example. So I can say, let me connect this first. So what is a chain? I can say, okay, LLM perform the following actions in sequence. Okay, so first is get the data. Okay, get the data. Now what it will do is it will get the data from a data source. So that is one. Then I will pass the second action. So it will be like, you can say, index the data, or like uh, like prepare the data in terms of sorting or grouping, or in any other form you have to like provide an action. So it can be an any action, like let's say index the data, or in other words we can say uh, like uh, let me just put it here in common terms, organize data, and then it will send this to the LLM. Now that is These this each action is called a link. Now, an chain is built of sequence of links, which are nothing but these are the actions which we need to perform for like before we are sending the data to the LLM or after we have received the data from an LLM. Now that is one of the features of Langchain. We have already discussed about prompt engineering. This is the other feature of Langchain. Now let's talk about other things. One is we can briefly discuss about RAG, which is like retrieval augmented generative approach. Now, in this approach, it is nothing but we have already discussed it, like fetching data from multiple sources like SQL, CSV file, and then organizing it and sending it to the LLM. That is what briefly is called as a RAG. Now, the other features of LangChain is we will also be able to define callbacks. Now, what are callbacks? These are like hooks, you can say, which we can put in different, like in different steps or in different actions, where we want where we want actually to capture the state of the LLM or how the LLM is performing. Like these are, you can say these are codes that developers place in their apps to log, monitor, and stream events in a LangChain application.